Well, in terms of how to deal with these 11 languages, it's a difficult problem because we were faced with a situation whereby there were two languages that dominated, English and Afrikaans. And African languages were relegated to the back scenes. Nobody was interested in them. They had no currency in society at large. There were languages that were being spoken by people in their homes, but they didn't translate onto a national scene at all. So it was felt that we have to embrace all the tribal languages in the country and give them equal importance, because it was seen as a way, number one, of ensuring that they lived on, but also in giving the other social groups, the white European groups, an opportunity to hear these languages being spoken in environments that they respected, like schools, like universities, on television, and not just by their maids in the back rooms. So it was felt that this would be one way of breaking down preconceived ideas and of allowing people to start to show a level of respect for the differences that we all shared. Where we stand currently with the language issue is that it's being pushed very, very hard in schools, and it's being pushed very, very hard in universities. In many of the rural areas where they have now got universities, there were very few universities in the past that was allowed to accept blacks. You will find that they are mainly dual languages, English and another language depending on the region. So if, for example, you happen to be in KwaZulu-Natal, you can take classes in Zulu at university level as well. If you are from the Eastern Cape, you can take lessons in Xhosa as well as in English. So it's working very nicely. And what they've done as well in terms of the education syllabus is that in order to graduate out of high school in the past, you would have to take Afrikaans as a compulsory subject. You would take English as a compulsory subject as well, but Afrikaans, you couldn't get your school leaving certificate without Afrikaans, without having passed the language, and you certainly would not get a place in university. So this has changed now. Now, all students take two languages, English and any other indigenous language of their choice. So you can do Afrikaans, Xhosa, Zulu, Tswana, whatever you want to do, but you have to do two. And what's happening is that most school-leaving children are doing three. So they'll do English, they'll do an African language, which may be Afrikaans if they choose, and they'll also then do a European language. French is quite popular, Spanish is quite popular, Italian is quite popular. So we are getting to a place now where the Department of Education is starting, apart from for the school children, in the rural areas particularly, is starting to publish books in vernacular languages. It's a very slow process because we've got 11 languages to cover, and it's just not practical. So, but the country is broken up into 9 provinces, and each province represents a different racial tribal group. So within that education department, they would then have the autonomy to go ahead and produce books in whichever tribal language they represented. In terms of dealing with the whole issue of coming together as a nation, from I'd say 1985, the apartheid government knew that they were on their way out. Things were going to have to change. So a lot of the laws that they had put in place and that they had really policed very vigorously, like, for example, the Group Areas Act, which meant that you could only live in certain areas, they didn't police them so vigorously. So people from the black community started moving into what were known as traditionally white areas and buying houses there. This then led to the issue of what do we do with these children now, because they're not where they should be. And so they can't go to the schools that they're supposed to go to. And the schools started realizing that they were going to have to look at maybe letting a few of the blacks into the schools. Ultimately, of course, government took action on it when the government changed. And I think that the opening up of all schools to all children made a huge, huge difference to the way in which we managed to integrate as a nation. The government also got rid of the notion of white universities and black universities, and they merged the universities to many people's horror, so that there was less disadvantage, because the black universities, those few that were there, were also underfunded as usual. So now we find that we're in a situation where most of our universities are actually of international standard, and we have millions of students going through our universities now. A lot has been done, more needs to be done, but things, for example, like the traditional subjects that a black person could study have now become taken over by becoming accountants, doing things with banking and all these kind of things that we blacks were never ever allowed access to. So we've changed a lot, and what that has led to is that it's meant that a lot of people who were brought up to believe that we were mentally inferior have had to change the way in which they look at us. And that is very often a frightening concept, because nobody wants to get rid of things that they've grown up knowing as a fact. But people have had to change their minds, and the acceptance of that change, and then letting go of that fear of the unknown, and the fear that you don't know how to talk to people because you don't know how they're going to respond to you. All these kind of processes are an ongoing thing, and government runs programs all the time. We have commissioners who go to schools across the country all the time, running workshops about understanding and communication and all these kind of things, and it's working. Our young children have no concept of what it was like to grow up under apartheid. They don't understand the concept of racism at all. So it shows that we're getting where we need to get to. The danger being, of course, is that because they know nothing of where we come from, they may not know how to protect what we have.
Okay, thank you. 我相信各位聽完我哋呢一節我哋個主題係關於國民身份認同嘅反思，相信都會同意就係通過我哋3位講者嘅演講，其實都一開眼界，起碼我哋都會開始反思呢個問題嘅時候，可能會考慮到其他國家嘅經驗尤其是南非嘅經驗，佢本身其實亦都要克服好多佢自己本身嘅歷史嘅問題。我哋聽到程翔先生所講關於佢自己嘅一啲嘅理解，亦都係好明顯係豐富咗我哋對何謂愛國，或者甚至到我哋應該點樣去考慮呢個問題，或者甚至到點樣思考呢個問題嘅方法。陳冠中雖然謙虛話佢係一個技術工人，但係我相信佢提供咗好多好多嘅insight 俾我哋咧去諗下，究竟其實點樣可以從一個眾數，或者甚至到從一種不同嘅角度、憲政嘅角度、公民嘅角度，甚至係世界角度去考慮翻我哋所講嘅國民教育嘅問題。咁我哋呢個部分係好注重嘅反思，咁我希望我哋可以做到呢個效果。咁當然咧，我哋仲有下一節落嚟咧，我哋就會討論喺香港嘅一啲嘅要面對實踐嘅問題。未多謝3位講者之前呢，我想講翻少少具體安排嘅。我哋將會有20分鐘嘅休息，外邊會有茶點。咁我哋大概應間喺4點20分翻嚟呢度繼續我哋第2節。多謝各位。請鼓掌，多謝3位講者。